Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining the stream. Thought I'd start off with something a little bit different this time. Hopefully the volumes are good. I'm coming through. Yep, everything looks good from here. So what you're looking at on screen right now is the beginnings of the tech level system that we'll be implementing into the game. So every alien civilization, every object in the game will have a tech level associated with it. So the first thing I've done is I've kind of detailed where humanity is in the time period that the game is set in. So looking at this, we're pretty much tech level 20 for humanity in 2261, which is when the game is set. And it's interesting because for the first couple of million years, humanity didn't do much at all. There was very little in the way of advancement. And then in the past few thousand years, technology in the human species has just gone crazy. And that's going to be interesting when generating alien worlds, because that's such a tiny window where humanity is right now in terms of its technological development. So the chances are, realistically, the chances of finding an alien civilization that's exactly the same as humanity in terms of its development level is going to be like billions to one, because it's going to fall either side of that tiny window. So I'm using Earth as the benchmark, because that's the only example we have in nature. And we'll roll the dice on this a little bit as well. So we'll have a, maybe plus or minus 10% on some of these values. So for the most part, any planet that's younger than 4 billion years won't have any life on it whatsoever. It might have bacteria or very, very simplistic beginnings of life, but no actual creatures or animals. And then over the next 500 million years, complex and intelligent life then evolves. But again, that's still a very, very, very tiny window when you consider that the Milky Way is 13 billion years old. But at the same time, we're talking about population 1 stars, and there's a bit of a narrower window than that. So our sun's about 5 billion years old, and I believe the population 1 stars go back about as far as 10 billion years. So if we, when scrolling down through the list, obviously we've got all the different Kardashev type civilizations, and then tech level 100 would be literal godlike beings that can just, blink galaxies out with the click of their fingers. So given that we have a window of about 10 billion years, I think it would have to be around about the 10 billion year mark for something like tech level 100. And then we'll just average that out across all the different tech levels. These are literally just me throwing some things on there, and just that might not be the tech levels we go with for those things, but I think it would be nice to have the different FTL methods associated with a different level of technology with the species. So we've got space warp, which is our current FTL method. That's like the most basic way of getting around. Artificial wormholes are slightly more advanced than that, and then hyperspace, and then full-on interdimensional travel, disappearing somewhere and appearing somewhere else. So yeah, now obviously filling in these gaps, we're not going to have this level of granularity. So it's just going to have to be like maybe split into tens. So this is warp civilizations. This is wormhole civilizations, and we'll think of some things to put in here in terms of advances in technology. Generally speaking, the higher you go with the tech levels, the greater relative power they're going to have to humanity. And we'll maybe lock some of this technology behind minerals and materials which have an associated tech level. So you need to be able to get to this point in your science research before you can make use of this kind of technology. Yeah, we won't have mushroom travel, sorry. Cal, yes, Twitch. We keep meaning to stream to Twitch, and we keep being so busy at the moment that we haven't got it set up as such. But we will stream to Twitch at some point. It's just getting to that point. Yeah, with races developing technology and the order that they develop it in, yeah, I mean, some of this you could mix up, but I think there's quite a logical progression between, for example, having electricity and then the need to generate electricity. So, one comes before the other. So once you've discovered electricity and you've realized what it's useful for, that naturally leads into how do we make more of it? Which I guess is where we are today with humanity. Our tech progression is very much about where can we get more energy from? And I suppose that's taking us towards the whole Kardashev Type 1 civilization. It's about where can we get energy? How can we utilize that energy? But yeah, so that's kind of where we're going with it. And again, the fascinating thing is when we start generating this procedurally, obviously we'll be taking the age of the planet and then fitting the age of that planet somewhere into this list. And this is such a tiny window. If you pick a random age between 4 billion and 10 billion, the chances of it hitting anywhere like here is so tiny. And I think that goes a long way towards looking at the Fermi paradox and where is alien life. I think the answer is it's either this side of the scale or like down here somewhere. The chance of it being anywhere similar to development to us is such a small percentage chance. And Clucky Hen, is that Admiral Cluck in the chat, has pointed out about civilizations going extinct, and we'll have a dice roll on that as well. And I think we'll do it probably so that the older the planet is, the greater the chance is that civilization would have either wiped itself out or left and moved on, leaving behind something interesting to look at from an archaeological perspective. So, bearing that in mind, these type civilizations, given the greater chance, the ever-increasing chance of them dying out, are going to be extremely rare in the galaxy, to the point where they might not even generate. So that'll be interesting to see. And I guess that's the other point, is because it's procedural, and because we're generating this through the astrophysics as well, it's going to be fascinating to see what the galaxy comes up with in terms of these types of civilizations. Hey Dave, thank you for the £5. I will spend that on beer. So the other thing I've been thinking about with this is we've got a bit of a chicken and egg scenario in terms of generating life within a sector and generating the details of a planet. So obviously we can't do the math on every single star system within a sector, because you're talking about potentially 4,000 star systems, and then we'd have to run all of the system generation 4,000 times for what is, I think, 24 sectors loaded at once. It's a mental number of star systems. You're talking about 30-odd thousand star systems. So the way we'll do it, I think, is for the non-FTL races, we will use this system. Once a race becomes an FTL race rather, we'll generate those separately, and we'll generate those before we generate all the rest of the star systems in that sector, because that way we can then have their ships and things flying around already when you arrive in that sector. So when you look at the sensors, you could see, unknown vessel making its way across the sector on its way somewhere. And we want that sort of level of life in the galaxy. And the only way to get that is to generate those things before it generates all the other star systems. Otherwise, it's going to be crazily computationally heavy. But we'll look into that and see what we can do. But yeah, I just thought you'd like to see what we're doing there. Thank you, Acting Commodore. I can't actually see the rest of your name. I don't know whether I can see that anywhere else, but Acting Commodore for the $10 there. Thank you for the beer money. I've been trying some real ales recently over the past couple of weeks. I don't normally drink. I have mead every now and then, but for some reason I just fancied it. So it's been nice to try some local beers from around this area. Zelaf, how far away will be able to detect other ships? So it's going to be within the sector that you're in. So again, because of the computational side of things and the need to generate this stuff, we can't really do all the complex generation and the moving around of ships unless it's within your immediate vicinity. So it's going to be up to, I suppose, 100 light years, because if you enter on one side of a sector, you'll see ships up to the other side of that sector, which is 100 light years cube. Thanks, Ubermeg. I shall give that a try. Yeah, the Beetlejuice system is something I'm going to include in the story campaign as a mission in its own right, to go and witness that go supernova. So the first supernova we make for the game will be Beetlejuice, and it will be part of the story. So one of the things that you'll do as part of that mission is do the science and watch it explode, which I think would be really cool. Thank you, Mr. Boyan. Yeah, my snacks of choice at the moment are pepperami hots, the Fire Stick version, and I think the Tesco's own like Chardonnay vinegar crisps. I'm generally more of a savoury person than a sweet person. Although I do have a packet of honey roasted peanuts, just, Yes, it is indeed a bit of an animal. Right then, so what have I been up to? So in the game, I have been shifting framework around, which is why stuff is sticking through the floor everywhere. So I've got some tidying up to do there. I've just been finalizing the scales of various bits and pieces. So I've gone with a 30 centimeter overlap for wall and ceiling framework. So this is 30 centimeters and that's 30 centimeters, and I'm going to keep that consistent everywhere. I went ahead and chamfered all the edges. I built a little system for adding weld lines, so you'll see that every edge has weld lines now. And indeed up here as well, you can see where they've all been welded together. I haven't added that to this side yet. I had to adjust the scale of these bits, which is why it's not quite finished. But again, it's using a consistent 30 centimeters there, 30 centimeters there, and that'll be the same throughout the whole ship. Yeah, so really it's just a case of rolling that out now that that's been defined. And the other thing I've been doing, which is what I'm going to carry on with now, is to add the ability to nudge the sensors. So once you've manually pinpointed a location in the galaxy, press some buttons to nudge it around. So I just run that a sec. Yeah, so with the welding and the structural framework, at the moment, and probably for the first ship, it's going to be static. So that represents the bit of the ship that can't break. So all the wall panels, all the floors and ceilings, all that will be physically destructible in the world, but not the metal framework itself. And there's a few reasons for that. The main one being is that it's what the collisions are generated on for NPCs and things, so that the NPC nav mesh, and also they're used as occluders, so all the individual wall panels and things don't run occlusion checks. Only the large objects in the world are used for occlusion checks, which keeps the CPU load down, and it means that we're not having to run occlusion on every tiny little object. But if we break them, then they're no longer usable for occlusion, which will probably result in a lot of objects being visible when we don't want them to be. So I've been working on just tidying this up. So things like it now defaults properly, it's populating the ship location properly, the focus is set properly. Not sure if I've mentioned this before, but I've added a new display focus control, and that's going to be for the Galaxy's display on the holo display. So right now it's arbitrarily stuck in the middle, but if I kind of do that, you can see that it flips off to one side. So right now this is it's focused on the focal point, and I know this is probably going to be confusing because it genuinely is a bit confusing. So the sensors can focus on the manual location at the moment is set to the center of the galaxy, or they can focus on where the ship is. And you'll notice that this data here, so it tells you all about what a spiral arm is, and it tells you about the population of this sector. And then if we change that to the manual location, you can see it now says galactic core, and it tells you about all the things which are there. So it has 2 black holes. It will eventually have a lot more than that. Obviously one of those is Sag A. So the idea is when you switch between these 2 focuses, it moves the map around accordingly. But we also want to be able to, so when we zoom in and out, so if I just zoomy like this, obviously we're focused on the ship. Well, we would be focused on the ship, which is fine. But if we want the map to not be focused on the ship, so it's not off center, then we need to be able to focus on the center of the galaxy. I just explained that really badly, but essentially that's what we're doing with it. this has become a very fiddly system. And then you'll be able to zoom out lots and lots and lots. But it would be nice to be able to change exactly what the camera is focused on, or what the display is focused on. So you'll notice that when I switch focus, it's working fine on the display, but it's not updating the holo display, so that's something that needs fixing. And then with these buttons here, which need doing better, so they're just placeholders, I want to be able to just scroll around the galaxy so that we can have the sector population and everything update as you move the focus around, so that you can explore ahead into sectors in front of you and then see what's there. And then the same on here as well. So same thing, you want to be able to focus on either where the ship is or a manual location anywhere in the galaxy. So when you enter that data there, you'll see the stars anywhere across the whole of the game area, so you can plot ahead, so you can plot courses beyond what you can immediately see. And again, you can also see what's there and perform scans and things. And then the same as with the galactic position, we need to be able to change the focus of the display. So we're either focused on the ship or a object of interest, and same with the medium range as well. So obviously this one's not as far along, but as you zoom in and out, by default we're focused on where the ship is. But if you're sort of just surveying a system, it would be nice to be able to center the display on the central star, or indeed a planet, and then survey the system accordingly. So that really this is just quality of life stuff, just to make life easier, when you're doing science. Doodly pop, shouldn't the decrease zoom and then the plus increase zoom? Yeah, so you're not actually zooming, you're changing the display range. So obviously by increasing the display range, you're showing more, so you're zooming out. I know it's a little bit weird to get your head around, but yeah, so we're reducing the display range, which obviously is making the map bigger. That confuses me sometimes as well. So will console support keyboard inputs or be solely mouse click? Yeah, every button will have a keyboard shortcut, including all of these, so that people can use external devices, so things like Game Glass or Voice Attack. Oh, there was another one someone mentioned the other day which I've never heard of. But yeah, so you'll be able to use keyboard shortcuts instead of physically clicking on things. But those keyboard shortcuts will only work if you're sat in the relevant chair. So essentially, when we're walking around, we have one control schema, and when we sit down, it actually switches control schemas, and the same thing over here at the helm. So right now, if I press Z, nothing happens. Whereas if I sit at the helm and press Z, you can see we're now engaging the FTL. And if I get out and press Z, nothing happens. So it's all relevant to which chair you're sat in. I need to move this tablet, it trips me up every single time. Yeah, I'm not sure about API support, or how far we can go with that. I think, at least to begin with, we'll just have loads and loads of keyboard shortcuts, and there'll be obscure ones. So, like this can be like Control-Alt-1, Control-Alt-2, Control-Alt-3, just things which which aren't going to conflict or have a very low chance of conflicting, just so that they can be used by external tools. Yeah, the windows are going to lose these crossbars, so I'll have the windows just so that they're panoramic up and over windows without this bar in the middle. I also want to put in some bridge wings, so like on a real naval vessel where you've got wings that you can kind of walk into and look backwards, so you've got backwards facing windows. I think that would be useful, just from a command perspective, so you can get a good look at the back of the ship from on the bridge. It just depends on how much space we have on the sides for other consoles. So I want internal security here and environmental control next to them, which should give us enough room to be able to fit in a bridge wing without interrupting this window frame here. Because I like how nice and evenly spaced the top is and how symmetrical it is, and I don't want to lose that symmetry. So if we can fit a bridge wing here, that would be good. And obviously the same on this side. So bridge wing here, and then there's enough room for the 2 engineering stations. Alex Coulters, that's really cool. Thank you for that. So if you rename the variable, does it then continue to work with rep notify? I haven't actually tried. Yes, being able to see the ship out of the window, for me is huge for immersion. I really don't like it on, say, a cylindrical hull where you look out the window